solve the two hardest challenges to cloud gaming, cost and speed. Our solution was to build a decentralized GPU network focused on eliminating latency and drastically reducing costs. This is what we've done. YOM has built the first game-focused decentralized network that allows AAA games to be playable on any screen through your web browser. We now have the technology on which to build the 3D internet, with immersive e-commerce, 3D social media, virtual events, and so much more beyond cloud gaming. Come find out more at www.yom.oo. We are YOM, the game-focused decentralized network, empowering the world's creative future.
Okay, that's a very cool intro.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? I've updated it to include those new scenes.
Yeah, the new scenes are definitely very good to have in the video, I think.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure we show off our partners and show up the node. So, hello everybody. We're gonna vamp for a few seconds while we wait for people to find us. I'm gonna complain real quick, not really complain necessarily, but just kind of laugh a little bit. So, you probably see this too. I wonder if you're getting it more than I am because I'm on stage more than you are. But my Telegram, like I get so much noise. I get centralized exchanges like these little ones reaching out and asking, "Hey, can do you want to listen to us?" I get bots of KOLs, like lots of KOLs who are like, "Listen, I've got this great platform. I can give you a Binance AMA, low cost or no cost." But then no cost actually means, well, you got to pony up $100 worth of rewards, obviously. So there's no such thing as no cost. Yeah. Recently, I've been getting a lot of artists who are like, "Hey, I need a job. Here's a whole bunch of my artwork," and it's like 36 pictures. So the nice big long Telegram post, and then we run into those scammers all the time. We're like, "Hey, we're investors. We're gonna."
Well, that's interesting, Jeff, because I'm actually not getting those.
See?
Right? So yeah, I think it's I do get a lot of tech recruiters, like continuously, and even yesterday we went to a conference. We basically managed to acquire a slot there at the Dutch conference to meet about 60 VCs. But then all of the matchmaking slots, they were filled by tech recruiters. So it was very disappointing because I'm already meeting them on a daily basis on my Telegram and LinkedIn feed. So, but it's probably role tight, right? So I'm the CTO and Jeff's obviously the CXO, right. So he gets the artists.
But again, I think it's also because of who I end up or how I end up presenting, the project and all these other channels.
Yeah. I'm going to edit my name, by the way, because you very clearly put your role next to it, and it's very useful, I think, for newcomers to the channel to see who's who. So let me do that.
Anyways, the only thing I wanted to say about that rant was just kind of if you're wondering why I haven't responded to you, if you're reaching out to us on Telegram and you're wondering why I haven't responded, recognize I get swamped, right? And it's each one of these distractions just bites into the opportunity time for all the tech and business stuff that we're doing. But regardless, all that, it's a different industry. To be in the Web3 space is different from being in traditional space. And I don't think I would change it for many reasons, even with the differences that are sometimes distracting.
Well, I don't know. So I have this like dual relationship with the crypto space because it's also, it's so frustrating that everybody just wants like to scam everybody, and everybody is very like price oriented and not necessarily focused on the fundamentals. It used to be very different up to, I think, 2017. Almost all projects, they were very tech driven. So there was not a lot of adoption, of course.
Right.
And then in the last bull market, there was this adoption, at least marketing influx. So you had a lot of layer twos, of course, not necessarily adoption. And I would say this bull market, if you could consider it a bull market, because it's not really, has been driven up to now mostly by memes, because it's way more accessible to create another token. So I would say the industry is getting like saturated with millions of tokens continuously, memes, money grabs, rug pulls, etc. And that's really so disgusting in a way.
This is the big rant that you and I were on with each other the other day. And we're like, we should put this in the town hall because this is, I mean,
right.
You and I both share that frustration. It's tough to be in an industry that started off with a whole bunch of get-rich-quick schemes where some people made a lot of money, but a whole bunch of retail investors lost a whole bunch of money because they got pulled into the hype cycle, right? Thinking that they were going to be one of the ones to pull it off, to hit the home run their first tryout, which it sucks because I think you and I both feel like what we're building is really solid. And to me, this is the good thing about DPIN getting all the time it's getting now and getting all the attention it's getting now. Not every DPIN is not a scam. Some of them might be, but at least we feel like, well, it's a validation of what the Web3 industry can bring to technology. This kind of technology we can bring to not just the Web3 space, but to the world. Right? That feels good. I like the idea that we're actually creating something of use.
Yeah, I think I want to make it even stronger than that. I think DPIN is the only true utility in the industry. So if it's not DPIN, then it's gambling. I would say, okay, gambling is indeed a utility, or it's game skins, right? Game skins make sense, but as of right now, they were overpriced. So a lot of studios lost interest because it was not practical for the game. And now basically the NFTs, which were meant as game skins, is now being hated on by a lot of game developers. Well, actually, in terms of utility as a game skin, they would work very well, right? So that is like the irony in the thing.
Yeah. I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna see this technology get more and more. We're about ready to publish that sustainability article, which is fairly lengthy and pretty deeply researched. Right, that's going to hit a lot. The DPIN, how it helps sustainability, I think it's going to help a lot of people kind of get on board. I think the changes in regulations in the states, after this next election, should be positive. Right, also bringing people into the blockchain space. And I don't know that I guess you do say it stronger than me. I don't know that DPIN is the only, and DPIN and then digital asset space is only used for blockchain, but I think DeFi has some useful cases in it, and there'll be others as well. But right now, we're probably the strongest. DeFi is probably the strongest use case.
Yeah, so DeFi in terms of course blockchain is from its essence it's a solution to providing liquidity. So indeed DeFi that works, and that's why gambling works. Adding liquidity to a lot of assets. So I agree, right? So DeFi is indeed the base from, I think, where a lot of tokens started. But by themselves, you always have to ask, okay, other than the assets being liquid, what do the assets provide, right? So, and then it becomes contentious.
It was one of the first conversations you and I had when I first came over to YOM, is how broken money is and how well Bitcoin anyways solves the broken money problem, right? This is an actual way to store and transfer value from one person to another in a way that's transparent and can't be duplicated and can't be stolen from. So in that way, I mean that and again, not every chain is going to have that same kind of value. Certainly for Bitcoin. It was one of the reasons I was like, oh, I think this guy, because I had that conversation with a whole bunch of people and got glassy-eyed looks back here where I live, because no one understood, when people say, explain Bitcoin to me, and I try to do it, and they just like, I don't get it. But they didn't know what money was really either. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, you weren't in that same target.
No, that's true. And Bitcoin is then indeed a store of value, and it focuses, on asset ownership. And I think that has indeed been achieved. So the question is, aside from asset ownership, what are the other benefits? And then liquidity came in, DeFi, Solana, layer 2s that basically solve the scalability problem. Right. So now we have highly liquid stores of value. But the question is, what's that value piece, right? So, and that's, I think, where then DPIN comes in, or let's say gambling comes in, game skins come in, memes come in, right? But there is this almost like this scale where you have like financial nihilism on the one hand and financial realism on the other hand, where basically most people right now in the crypto scene, they're very much on the financial nihilism side of the spectrum, not fundamentally believing in crypto tokens, and then preferring, let's say, a very honest rug pull, like a meme coin that basically says, I'm a meme coin, I'm going to rug pull you, I don't tell you when. And people prefer that because at least it's honest, right? So that is the irony of the financial nihilism that's taking place. Then within the financial realism place, it's mostly I would say, collective goods that get tokenized. And then what does that mean? Well, fundamentally, that means deep in, right? So talking about energy, tokenization of energy, tokenization of data. We have like map metrics, right? So map data, compute, storage, all of these collective problems, collective goods can then be solved by a deep in solution. And it's kind of like fills the gap where I would say most businesses, the private industry is very catered very much towards the supply of a good, like a physical product. Whereas deep in is an improved, it's a technological way of solving the collective problems, right? So you can even like build probably a deep in for social awareness. We carbon credits, of course, that's a deep in fundamentally, because it's basically how many trees do you cut, right? So you get minus points. Okay, how do you store that? You need some kind of network or sensor data to manage that. That's a deep in, right? So all of the collective problems, they can be transformed somewhere into like deep ins.
But going back to that the financial nihilism, aspect of so many people in the Web3 space, that scares away traditional VC too much, right? And it's a struggle where like what we are building, right, with a deep in that's focused on delivering games. And the way that our architecture is set up, right, it's any game built in Unreal. It doesn't have to have any kind of Web3 activation at all. We keep on making this point to people. That means we're available to all the traditional gaming industry space. Well, anyone who's using Unreal, and that's so many of the greatest games, right? But because and then for us, the deep in is really the blockchain is only to support the node system and paying the node operator. But that even just having that little bit of Web3 tie-in can scare away the traditional investors when they don't make the point strong enough that, hey, we're really a technology business that utilizes deep in for our payment system, blockchain for the payment system. But fundamentally, we're a technology. We're a high-end, a very mature technology company.
Right. And I think that's also, thank you, received a can of energy. I think that, so basically early 2023, we applied for the European Union and we went through all of the procedures. We got the analyst to approve. We were basically one of the top 2% of business plans submitted. So we passed 2 stages and all the business analysts, they said, okay, it's excellent. We got a partner in. That's also like, your application is completely excellent. Everything works. Blueprint. This was before the ChatGPT era, right? So it was like truly like written from scratch. And then we were basically symbolically at the very end, you're placed in front of the jury. So the people from the European Union were then tasked with like providing you, listening in, addressing some questions from the plan, and then transferring the money afterwards. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's kind of the goal. And then we had someone from the European Union who was very critical, took a very critical stance against blockchain, and specifically Solana. And his argument was that Solana is, and blockchain, he said, for all blockchains, he said, all blockchains are centralized. Because fundamentally, there is a tiny group of people who builds those blockchains. And then I was like, okay, this guy truly doesn't get it, right?
Right.
So because he doesn't understand that networks, like how they operate, how they are independent from the builders who built the original code, right? So that at some point, when you deploy the original code, just like with Bitcoin, at some point just keeps on living and people can commit their own pieces to the chain and they get pull requested by somebody. And then it's up to the validators to then either accept those changes or reject those changes, to split off, etc. All of that. So he kind of like killed the entire conversation by just saying, okay, developers, there's a group of developers who built the blockchain, so therefore it's centralized, so therefore your product doesn't make sense. And it's like, okay, how do you right? So that was a turning point for us, right?
Well, we still got the seal of approval.
Yeah.
We just didn't get the full award. Is that how it worked?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got a seal of approval, basically certifying, but also recommending private investors basically to invest equity into our project, because we basically succeed on all parts, on all elements, on all components that were required for this European innovation fund, right? So it was basically a stamp of approval from the European Union.
Yeah.
And then, of course, things changed afterwards.
Right. Well, listen, we've gone into this a little bit, but I do want to make sure that we leave time for the questions that 17 brought up, because there were some really important questions from, if you guys don't know, a community member who's very dutifully paying attention to us and keeping us honest, and he asked us a whole bunch of really good questions. I want to get to them, but I did also promise that we go over the roadmap. So let me bring up the roadmap first, and let's have see how do I do this? Right, do this. There we go. All right, so people should be able to see the roadmap. This is updated. We got to have to post it on our socials. Actually, where do we have the original version of this? I looked at the white paper; it's not there. Do you even know? I don't even know where we have this.
The original version of the roadmap, it was on we maintained a web page for that, and also some PDFs. But yeah, of course, we revamped the entire website, so it got lost in the process.
Okay, so we've got to make sure that we put this up there. We'll put it in we'll make sure wherever we post it, we'll put it on our socials, but we'll also make it live so you don't have to go digging through back and post dates of our posts of our socials. So where we are now, right? We're coming to the end. We're in Q4 of 2024. So most people, again, are kind of caught up. And again, the first, like the pre-alpha, the first half of this year, I don't think I changed or updated very much of the notes that I had in there. Some things that I moved, I'll try to make sure that I remember to call them out. But some of the big things we've accomplished in the second half of the year is that, we had the node conference test. So I was able to take that node into the conference in Singapore and play it in front of people and let them play it on Telegram on their phones. The Telegram itself was one of those opportunity things. I think it was called out like, hey, you haven't talked about Telegram before. Why did you all of a sudden have a Telegram build? But when you talk about what value we bring to the game developers, the idea that not only can you play a game very quickly by going to the URL, but your game can be spread a lot more virally, a lot quicker, right? Because instead of me sending the link to Steam and saying, hey, this game is really cool, jump in, and then you're taking 3 hours to download and install, and then calling back, let me know he's got the game working. If I'm just sending him a link in Telegram or a link to a URL, and we're immediately playing together, for a game developer, that's such a better way to spread your game virally. And again, our network is going to be set up cheap enough that even the independent game studios and hobbyists are going to be able to put their own real games into our network, right? Kind of almost like you upload to YouTube, you're uploading to our network in that way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right. So it's the idea. I would say, I don't want to say the word metaverse, because I know a lot of people, they will hate that.
Right.
But it's the original idea, let's say, of ubiquitous gaming, right? So it's instant gaming everywhere, on every channel,
right?
Without any hiccups, without any latency, without any channel requirements or paywalls in between.
Or
that's what we're building.
Gaming system, or right, all those things.
Yeah. So conceptually, also, a game doesn't necessarily need to be on a single location, right? So you can share it with somebody through chat, but it can also exist as a Reddit comment somewhere, right? So people can access that same backend infrastructure that's running on the YOM network from all of these different locations. So you can play multiplayer against your friend. Well, your friend is, let's say, existing in a Reddit comment while you are playing on Telegram, and somebody else is joining from a Netflix or the website itself. It doesn't really matter, because fundamentally they're connected over the YOM infrastructure, which is entirely decentralized.
And the thing that made game developers just so easy to buy into the system. When we talk about it, it's really we're going to get to that in a second. But how we're supply bound right now. Demand is just not through the roof.
Yeah.
but it's almost instant, right?
We're way oversubscribed, and the reason is also like the studios, they're looking for this, right? They are looking for the gaming revolution. Of course, Unreal Engine is very nice with the graphics, but in terms of delivery and getting users on board, that's the key, right? And we've already had that from the websites, right? So the websites, they're now all responsive, so they work both on mobile devices, on different channels. You can access them from your tablet, from a desktop. That still needs to happen for gaming, right? So right now it's either you have to deploy on the game store and you build a mobile game, or you build something for desktop niche gamers. Like, why isn't there something that does both, right? That it doesn't matter which device you access them from.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's left for this year and why it's exciting for the community. So what we're gearing up for is the test that I did the other day, the tech team sent me a link and from Amsterdam, and I was able to play our sample game, the same one that we had in Singapore. I was able to play it on a node running outside of one of the tech teams, right from his house. Right, he was running a node at his house in Amsterdam. I was in the States, and I was able to play the game. Like, it was played well. It didn't play at the rate that we're eventually going to ship our latency with, but still, I was not lagging to the point that I played a third-person shooter.
Yep.
The next step for us is to make sure that to have an event where anybody in the community can do the same thing I did that yesterday morning. Right?
Yeah, and that was even surprising to us in a way, because we kind of believed the range would be a lot shorter, because actually we provided a better playing experience from our home office over AWS, right?
Yeah.
Which has like dedicated internet line. So our network was better than the AWS network. So it's not only cheaper, it's not only 10 times cheaper, but it's also less latency and faster. And the reason for that is because AWS also probably has all of these layers in between. Their machines, their servers, they're not meant for gaming, they're meant for AI, right? So there are a lot of reasons why indeed we would have this improved cloud gaming performance. I see Frank, by the way, in the chat asking a question. Will people be able to use a controller for those games? And the answer is yes, we already have that built in. We had it built in last year already. But even better than that, for the next product update, we will have a configurable element inside of every streamer. So it's like, doesn't matter what kind of game it is, but you can basically map your own controls to it, right? So if you have an Xbox controller connected to your PC, or so even XR mode would be possible. Right now, we excluded this from the mix because that requires like an entirely different infrastructure. You have to basically render both eyes. But yeah, to answer that, will people be able to use a controller? Yeah, definitely. That's already there.
So one thing I will point out, going back to the roadmap for a quick second, one thing that I do want to point out is we did move one of the bigger items that we had that was slated to happen in the second half of this year, but has gotten moved into the beginning of next year, is the marketing relaunch. So the cost of marketing in the Web3 space is just, it's very, very large. And to do it right, we want to like kind of go big or go home. We feel like we need to, but we don't have to. It's not like an immediate need for us. We just want to make sure that when we do it well and really strong. We've got a marketing team that's supporting us, but we want to really double down and blast into the market. So to give us space and to be positioned when the market itself moves, we move that into the beginning of next year. You'll also see in the beginning of next year, in the first half of next year, YOM staking through the dashboard, right? This is going to be a big thing, and I don't know, Jörg, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think in the end, staking touches into the YRX system again, right? So that is also a reason why we're not scaling up marketing yet, because first of all, there is the network's not live, right? So generally, you build, you do sales, you get your demand there, you do the rollout of the network, and then after you have the network live, you start getting the tutorials out, because then every dollar that you invest actually leads into a conversion. If we start doing marketing now, like who is going to then use the product, right? Yes, people will be buying the token, but yeah, and it's nice for speculators that then want to exit. But in the end, we're building a network here, right? So if you trust the network, if you believe in the fact that for all of the consumption on the network, we're burning tokens, therefore supply is reduced, therefore you get an increase in value. Yeah, then that's the core thing that we all need to align with and focus on, because otherwise you can also just, if hype is important, go invest in a meme token, right? Because they have the hype, so but not the stability of the network. So
there's one other aspect that this roadmap that people should kind of glean from this roadmap. It reflects, because it's a comment that we got every time we talk to investors and other partners. They kind of cite, hey, in the deep in space, we see a whole bunch of projects that ship out, an ass ton of nodes that don't have any kind of demand for the usage. So the people who own the nodes are like, wow, this is great, but I'm not earning anything from it. I spent all this money, I'm not earning a thing. We're sensitive to it just for many reasons. Like we don't want to come across as a rug pull, because we're not. We know that we want to balance the demand with the supply. We want to bring some game, sell some nodes and put some game. Well, actually, put some games live and then sell nodes for retail people, so that there's they're making money from the nodes immediately. And then we don't sell more nodes until the network is at 80% capacity, and then we sell more nodes. And because if we add games, we get 80%, we sell some more nodes. So that way, your node is always getting some level of revenue. It's not one of these, sell the 10,000 nodes and then we'll find some games to put on the network.
Yeah, it's good also in other ways, because what you see is with the deeper projects that sell out all of their tiers before they're live at the network. First of all, it reduces the scarcity, right? So because there's so many nodes now bought by so many people, then even if you bought in your node, let's say at the lower tier, because there's so many other nodes, and all of those nodes, they have to internally within the network have to distribute basically all of the workload. Nobody, like, it's not fundamentally then going to be different from a very expensive NFT, right? So you're going back into so it's up to the deep-in network. It's up to us, and it's up to all of the other deep-in. I'm like speaking for all of the deep-in projects here, because that's the reason why they exist. They have to get demand onboarded. If you don't, and that's also for VCs to call out, if there are deep-in networks that are selling nodes, but they don't have confirmed demand, they don't have the sessions filled out exactly by gaming studios, they don't check that part, right? Because that's the crucial thing for the network. Everybody else can. So that was very funny. I saw this article, and it said basically, okay, these are the top deep-ins. And of course, YOM was not listed because we don't do any marketing. But there was a project listed that basically did staking from a predefined token pool. They had no customers, no demand, no utility, doesn't matter. But now those staking pools were called nodes. So you buy a node and you run the node. So they say, okay, these are liquid nodes. So they're virtual nodes. You don't have to run an actual machine, right? So you run your node and you get tokens. Now, again, the question is, okay, are these tokens, are they bought from the market? Is somebody buying from it? No, they weren't. It's just tokens, right? So it's just like there's a big pool of tokens, you get tokens. Yeah, and a lot of people are content with that because they look at the metrics and say, okay, there's a lot of hype for it. The network is live, right? Nodes are being sold, right? So this is the network activity. And yeah, if you look purely at the data, that is correct. But if you look at it from
fundamentals,
fundamentals, and like what problem are they solving, and like what it's economics 101. Do your math. It doesn't work that way, and then you basically start screwing people over, and then you get into why the financial system is corrupted. And by repeating the financial system in the Web3 market, in the crypto market, you're doing way more damage as an investor, right? So because there's two sides, right? So it's the project that is doing the wrong thing, but it's also the investor then buying into that project, buying into the narrative, into the hype.
Right. And enabling that wrong thing.
And enabling that, right?
Yeah.
Because, and so it goes both ways. And by pointing that out, recognizing that, building a platform, building awareness around all of these scams in the industry, and I'm pretty fair to say like 80% is, in the industry is just fake. It's fake. And it's usually the top tier projects, unfortunately, because they understand how to grab and exploit communities. That's their core business. They float on top.
One of the sadder comments that I got when I first got into all this was that the Web3 space is half technology and half marketing. And I had a chance to go into marketing when I got out of art school, and didn't go because I just felt like marketing is kind of I'm kind of attuned to how damaging marketing can be when they're trying to sell you junk food or pharmaceuticals or all the other bad things that we get sold all the time. So I didn't want to be any part of that space. But then come to find this part of the industry that I'm so in love with, and I'm certainly much more of a technologist, or as much of a technologist as I am as an artist, right? Storyteller. It bothers me that the marketing side ends up being so heavy still, and that again, it's because you see so many people get rug pulled, and these are people with real desires to be involved in something really good. And I think our space is going to be where everything eventually goes. But we have to go through this pain first.
And I would say the evil thing, or like the screwed up thing here, is that the people who get rug pulled, they're the people who then will shy away from further investments. And the people who make a lot of money, right? So the people who are the psychopaths, they end up grabbing more money. So they start making more money as well, right? Because that's how staking works. So what ends up happening is that in crypto, the top holders, the richest crypto holders in the industry, they tend to be like in I would say the dark triad spectrum.
Right. Well, I don't want. That's a pretty broad brush. I'm trying to be careful not to all sociopaths, because we also have met some really great guys. The guys at Peak, like from the very beginning, and we'll talk a little bit about Peak. But gosh, Leo and Martin and all those guys over there, true kind-hearted people who've got same as I think they're in the same situation we're in, right? Yeah. They've got a really good product. They know they've got good technology. They're being true to their values, and still in a marketplace where there's so much graft and scammers, right?
No, 100%, right? So it's 20% that's still legit, and that's still a lot, right? So it's 1 in 5 that's building actual value, proven value, and definitely Peak is one of them. I think most layer 1 blockchains are like the bigger ones are in that 20% category. Right, so even Solana, I know a lot of people are hating on Solana nowadays, but if you look at the original, if you look at the tech talks of Solana, if you look at the founders, they're really there to build the most scalable payment chain and making it highly liquid. But what happens as a result, if it's too easy to deploy shit, then people will start deploying shit. That's the same with the internet. The internet was, you can say, okay, like the internet is full of shit, doesn't make the internet shit. Or the original developers of the internet, memers, right? That's not how it works. It's not like that.
Yeah, that was another part. So all right, that was another part of that long rant we had the other day, but we really should jump into some of the questions so that we can help.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. So I'm gonna, how do I hide that? Oh, I saw a little bit ago. This maybe. I'll figure it out. Oh, there's a way for me to get this right here. No, I don't want that. I want to get the roadmap off the screen, and I had it a second ago.
Stop sharing it, maybe.
There.
In the bottom, there's the share screen. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So figuring out the restream technology. All right. So one area that 17 brought up is about the VC wallets, right? Because we've had a recent sell-off, and it's really just a single wallet. One of the earlier VCs, he asked, like, are we trying to refund early VCs or anything like that? But I think I'm right to say all the tokens have been unlocked. So they're free to do with
Yeah.
it what they want to do with it. And why anybody would dump now, and I don't know those dump, but it was a significant sell where we're not super liquid. And it hurts the price to do that. We get that. Fortunately, we're not. We said this way back at the beginning. We're not. Our success is not bound to the token price. We want token price to go up, but we have operating capital, so it's not like it doesn't kill us to have something like this happen, except for it hurts our feelings a lot. But to the question that he asked was, can we list like each wallet address and the VC fund that's behind that? I'm resistant to that because I don't want us to. I mean, we're trying to strike a balance in this market between transparency and being true to some sensible business practices. And I would think we would scare away other VCs if we were all of a sudden to say this wall belongs to this VC, that one.
Yeah, so I struggle with that too, but I'm mostly actually on the other side. First of all, shout out to Frank. Best to let them dump now. Completely agree. But I'm actually all in favor of transparency. So my first intuition is, yeah, let's expose all of them, right? But then Jeff came with, okay, yeah, in a way you can do that, of course, and I think the community would appreciate, but it will also prevent other whales, investors from joining the project, because in the end it's a free market, right? Free will, people need to sell, then they need to sell, right? So calling out certain names, that's not something that we should be doing. But what we can do is, but we have to look into that potentially, is just to provide a list. Okay, these are all of the VCs that invested. So you guys can make a distinction between, is YOM selling or is a VC selling, and that provides already a lot of confidence, I think, for other VCs to join the project.
Right. And yeah, he asked that question. We did at the beginning during that run up when Supermom found and pumped us. We sold because that was very early on. We needed capital like to do something.
No, yeah, but we could continue to do that, right? So every pump you have to sell during every pump, and then you buy back during the dumps. So if you look at our wallet, everything has been bought. We sold a lot at 12 cents, 15 cents, 70 cents. And as we went down, we bought in every penny is being bought back into the market. Right. So and that ensures that.
Right.
Exactly. That's just how it works. And it ensures also that the average base price is also higher and higher and higher and grows. So you do that as a project to increase the total value of the project.
Right. And now, in the case of the one who dumped, we reached out a number of times, right, to work out an OTC deal with them, and they have just kind of not been receptive to the idea.
Yeah.
So we did our steps, and we'll try again, right, every time.
Exactly. And you have to basically, and it's there is indeed this wallet, and I think some people they recognize that wallet. And I would say it's a VC that doesn't really understand liquidity, I think, because as a VC that if the market is liquid, it's a way better time to sell. Because first of all, it doesn't harm the price, so you don't lose on slippage. Second of all, everybody is excited, so they don't care about you selling, right? So there is a risk for them. We can reveal their name, and that would really harm their reputation, right? So we won't do that, but that's definitely a risk that they should be concerned about. Furthermore, we even offered, so we approached them and we offered them to facilitate an OTC, right? So there was another VC that wanted to buy big ticket into the YOM project, and it couldn't be done because of liquidity. So we tried to connect the two, but they're being not responsive to us at all. So it's really like a frustrating situation to be in, and that's why I am also like in favor. Okay, this VC is not being particularly professional. So yeah, let's see what we can do. What we can do about that. And
it's interesting, the two different cultures. You're the Dutch culture and the American culture, and then Andy being from England. Dutch very forthright and not a lot of small talk. Americans, I think we try to be warm, but we also kind of end up being boisterous and a little bit surely arrogant. And then the British are generally reserved anyways. So it's a balance. So we've talked about this before. I'm going off topic a little bit, but the balance between the three of us, you being the tech guy, Andy being the hustler, me having the extended vision or the gaming experience, we balance ourselves well that way. But I think it's interesting that the cultures also kind of balance each other. When you really call for brashness, when you call for reservedness, and when you call from just directness, we've got all three of those between the three of us. Kind of nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the communication. He also called out that we haven't done a tech update. Like we said, we're going to be doing bi-weekly tech updates. Now, the video that we dropped that showed the node in operation that I shot here at home and put up there, I think that was meant to be a tech update, but we didn't want to wait until like a Friday and include it. We just wanted to get out as fast as possible. And these, I do want to do these town halls weekly. I want to get them to be weekly, and it won't always be York. I'll have Andy on. I'll have some other team members. I've cornered some of them. We'll have some partners come in as well. I enjoy this format. I'm a fan of podcasts, and I spend a lot of time watching them. And I like the idea that I'm mimicking some of the best attributes of some of the best podcast guys. I hope, anyways. So anyways, but he's not wrong to call out that our communication to our community, at least the updates, probably could get better. You want to add any color to that?
No, yeah, I think it's very interesting. So we did that, right? So every 2 weeks there was this like elaborate tech report, but then we also saw that nobody really replied to it or cared. So it's like, okay, we're spending time. So with the tech team, we try to be as efficient as possible and use our resources efficiently as possible. And writing some documentation, especially with ChatGPT, it's quite an easy feat, but it still like consumes about 90 minutes to collect all the things together from everyone. And that 90 minutes could also be spent in improving the system. So you're like, okay, if nobody cares about devlogs, then let's just proceed without it until somebody like asks for them again, which is currently the case. And of course, it's 17, who was with us from the start.
Right.
Just like Frank is, by the way, is also in the chat at the moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people who are watching it.
Right. So it's a balance of, because it's opportunity cost. That if we spend it here, that means we're not spending it on the tech side. And one thing that we're, again, very strong on is our tech is going to be better. It's already better than anybody else who's working in this space. So, and that's probably because we don't get so embroiled in the sideshow that is marketing and a little bit of communication. But again, these are people who've been around from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's also interesting. So we also had a discussion, Jeff, about how the Web3 world works and how it's different from at least doing business in the Western Hemisphere. I'm not familiar with Asia, but generally what you see in the Web3 world is that people just copy each other's strategies and they say, okay, this is the best strategy. And right. Communities also doing that, right? So communities saying, okay, you have to do this, right? So you need a community that is X size. Well, there are a lot of Web3 projects that don't need a community at all because they're not necessarily driven by a token. They do some other solution, but they are still required to build a community. And that's not really fair, right? So that's not really fair for them. And it also, I would say, it changes a lot, right? So every few months, there's a new thing, a new trend, a new situation that the whole industry quickly adapts to. And I think it's related to the fact that because it's community-driven projects and communities, they tend to be highly social. So they tend to look at each other and then look at other projects and they say, oh, this is what we should be doing as well. Right, so there's this highly integrated social functions that is not necessarily there when looking at private companies that are more, let's say, isolated, more specialistic in providing the best possible product to their target audience, right? Which like varies very strongly from business to business. Whereas in Web3, it's all like, okay, now everybody has to partner with this particular product. Right. And if you're not a partner of it, then that's bearish, right?
Right. You're not making a new partner announcement every 2 days. But this part
that.
Half the partnerships they're not going to use, right? It's just a matter of getting them.
Yeah, but it's like the community expects basically a new partnership a week, and like really.
But again, an opportunity cost in building those up, especially when you're looking at partnerships and you're like, well, really, we don't really need that partnership. Why are we chasing it? Well, the community wants an announcement. Well, you've lost then the 6-8 hours it takes to go ahead and have the meetings with them, write the documents.
No, and then also, of course, the community also knows that, but it's more like they want other community members to also see that the project is live, ready, doing work. And the way to do that is to signal to the outside world, we're operating and we're associating ourselves with those high-tier businesses. So again, it ties into, it doesn't matter what the product is. Nobody cares about the utility or the value that you solve. It depends on the social circles, it's social circles, you could say that you partner up with. It's in a way, Web3 businesses are very similar to like influencer businesses where
I think you're saying high school. It's similar.
Or high school. Like that's yeah. That's why there are so many young people also in this. Maybe it's
I was in drama club, so that put me in a special class of students. All right. The other topic that we want to touch on was fundraising. He kind of basically was asking, like, why are you guys fundraising? Don't you have enough money? Which is a funny question in a way. We're fundraising because we have big plans and we want to move fast and we want to capitalize and be ready when the market starts swinging up, which I would assume this quarter and next quarter, you're going to see a real turn, I believe, anyways, in the markets. And we want to have the money there to do the big spends. Like I said, marketing is expensive, and we want to have the budget to really, crush it. So we are meeting with investors and we are trying to fundraise. But again, it's not because, there's no really not because. It's just something that you do. Some companies are fundraising every day. And I don't know, you've had a background at P Capital. What would you say to this?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I was also thinking about something else entirely. So I missed a little bit like the last part that you said, Jeff. Can you repeat that?
Which part? The idea that some companies are always fundraising, like they just come in.
Well, the thing also about fundraising is that if you're building tech, if you're building fundamentals, then you need to fundraise because you cannot. That's like it's a chicken and egg problem, right? So if you don't fundraise, then you have to get businesses in, but you don't have the technology, right? So it's just part of what a startup does and what the founders need to be doing. And we've been advised also, because there is, of course, ways around fundraising. And I would say that's a very Dutch approach. It's a very European approach. And that is try to focus just on getting customers in as fast as possible, rather than, right? And it doesn't really matter if those customers then consume the core product or the final product that you intend to develop or the technology. Doesn't really matter as long as within the domain you're building up a network of initial customers. But the problem is we already have those, right? So we already sold a lot of projects to those customers. So that's not the point, right? It's really about scaling up the business,
right? And
that's what we're trying to also convey to the investors. Like we know what we're doing. We know exactly the domain. In terms of the technical uncertainty, we have a lot of proof that it works, right? So it's not like, it sounds like a lot of risk and it sounds like heavy, but it's not. It's
right.
And I think that's also.
And from our sales side too, we've also validated the sales pretty easily too. That again, every conversation we have is like, well, we get
exactly for the core infrastructure, definitely, right? So we started off. So this was years ago. We started off selling. Let's say the creative products as well. So it was part of our proposition. And right now it's like entirely narrowed down to, it's just hosting, right? So you just host on the network and we support you with some tooling next to it and you pay for it. And also that one we validated, right? So we are oversubscribed. We need less studios at this point rather than more studios, right? So the question also is like, okay, yeah, we have domination, of course, revealed. But if you look at all of the other projects that like want to deploy right now, it's like, yeah, we are signing them off. We're like holding them down because we want to like do a first proof of concept with one big name in the industry that we feel comfortable with working with, that we have a very positive relationship with.
So you segued really well into the next topic, really, which was about the game partners and the network launch.
Yeah. I know, right?
So donation is a great for us, right? Because they're at this point that kind of they're a little bit ahead of us, I guess, in the development, but we can run right alongside of each other. They want to attract community and investors by showing off their game. We have a system that's going to be ready to help them show it off. So I just had a conversation with them yesterday talking about the scale of their first release and making it with ours. It's part of the roadmap. You'll see it in the roadmap, the major game. The Alpha 2 test event, instead of using the small game that we have, in my mind, that could be their game, donation. So we can start playing multiplayer on our Alpha 2 test event. And then their full release of their game on our network sometime second half of next year. It would be ideal. We're still
and also like just to show some numbers, right? So you can go back to our announcement channel and just look at all of the studios we signed an agreement with. We have more than 25 studios announced and signed. So and that's also the metric on the website. It's a lot of interest to us at this point to make that number higher. It doesn't.
I know it can be frustrating though, because like Star Atlas, where they invited us to show off at their event, it was great, and I think we've got a very warm relationship with Mark and the guys over there, or Mike and the guys over there. But they also are being cautious about attaching their name to to just any other project. They've been burned before. They've seen some gaming DPINs, right, that underperformed for them. And they're like, well, we're not going to sign on until we see a really proof of concept, which again we're getting very close to. And I appreciate that, right? He's trying to protect his brand and his community from other projects that in the space that's full of scammers. And I'm totally down with that. We spoke at the conference, he and I, about, hey, we know that we've invited you to this, but we also don't want to, sign on as a partnership. We call it a collaboration. I said, listen, I'm totally comfortable with that. Because I think I would be that same way I feel like I am that way with our community too, like not trying to point our community over to projects that we don't think are have truly validated themselves yet. But the idea that he was, that they even invited us in was, of course, super nice. And the game looks amazing, by the way. I was sitting across from a big monitor watching the guys play, and boy, Charlotte, this looks really, really nice.
It's again, that's the social circles part, right? Whom do you associate with? Whom do you trust? It's a risk indeed. If you don't know a project's going to deliver, then you don't partner with them. So in a way, you're like queuing constantly. You're creating signals. That's what you're doing, right? So it is, I would say, like, it is still important, very important to get the partnerships out. Because in a way, it does communicate. Okay, like we're building something that's of value to them, right? So that is, and that's definitely also going to be the case with Star Atlas. So we're going to keep on pursuing them, and I think right now it's just a matter of them being very busy with their own schedules at this point, rather than.
That's the other aspect. I don't think people recognize it. There is some work on the game developer side to get their stuff on our network. It's not a lot of work, but they have to take the SDK that we've developed and then put it into their project and then do the deploy cycle, which isn't that long. But there's work to do, and having run so many game projects in my
and also to put the emphasis on there. So what does the SDK allow? So the SDK allows Star Atlas to be able to put on mobile devices. So naturally, that should be something that Star Atlas should put like the highest priority on, because you as a gaming project, you want as many users as possible, and 80% of devices are mobile. So,
so again,
but unlock that.
He's sold on the idea of
I know, but it's still a commitment. It's still.
But and having to manage schedules like this in the past, when the concept of putting up a deep, putting a game out on a deep end. If I was handed that task to add it to my schedule, my head would explode, and I would probably push back as well. So I think he's made the sale already to his team. They know that they want to do it, but it is a matter of they've got certain goals they've already set in mind, already milestones set up, and so the milestone that they put this into might still be a while away, maybe 6 months away. But honestly, again, we're not going to be ready for that much traffic anyways for 6 months.
Yeah, we also have to pick and select, right? So if we don't feel, so that's the other thing. If we don't feel enough commitment, then it's just, okay, yeah, then better not do it, right? Better not partner with somebody that's not 100% committed to the space. There are way more potential partners like Star Atlas that we engaged with that have very serious projects, but we need that extra feeling, that extra relationship building part to it, because this is very important. We have to manage the risks. There's a lot of we have to deliver the entire thing, so it's a lot of hand holding on both sides. It's a lot of you have to do it together, right? Especially
that's
for the
why
first.
I like YOM Nation. I think that's why they're
we go from 0 to 1 together.
Right, they're at the same spot that we want.
Yeah, and everybody will profit in that process, because you do get the PR attention. You do get basically all of the elements, all of the benefits that come associated by being a pusher, a leader in the industry, right? Yeah. And Domination is a studio that recognizes that, and we find it very, very nice working with them. So that's.
And they're right there close to Andy, like their office is driving distance from Andy. So and they even talked about maybe helping us being a second layer solution for us as well. I think we did everything. I'm looking at my notes now to see if there's anything we didn't touch on, but I feel like we did.
No, then let's cut off the channel ASAP so that we have enough bullets to shoot for the next town hall.
That's the Dutch in you, right? Just quickly say goodbye.
Quickly say goodbye. Bye.
Yeah, we're good. We'll get it in under an hour, which is good for the YouTube algorithms and all that too. I appreciate everybody kind of tuning in. Let us know what you think of this format. Let us know what you think of Jort and I just bantering. I'll be the host and probably bring in other people, but we'll also obviously have Jort back from time to time so he can kind of be heard and seen. That's kind of it.
Yeah, Frank just quickly put out a comment. If Star Atlas or any similar will join, but it gets, let's say, 1 million. Williams. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing, right? So again, ties into. So we did the math, and the problem is if we get a game like Call of Duty in, then we need all tiers sold because otherwise you cannot handle it. So you have to scale kind of on both sides in an equal pace, right?
So I don't know how much we've openly talked about the partnerships with IO.net and Flux and all these second layer solutions.
Yep.
I don't know that we talk about it ourselves a lot, but I don't know that the community knows about it.
Yeah, so IO.net works. It's validated. It's very nice. So we're moving forward with them. There's an official partnership yet, but hereby the unofficial announcement. No, I don't think that counts. So that's IO.net, and they're all GPU providers. So in the end, we focus very much on our own deep-in fundamentally, right? So the target also for the rest of this year is to get the node in the hands of people like Frank,
right?
So they can also participate in hosting.
So what it'll always be is the individual nodes, like the one I have here. Here. Those will always take priority over any other solution. But we'll have the backup solutions, the larger providers like the IO.nets and even Amazon in the worst case scenario, that will handle the overflow when we have a surge. We have a massive amount of games to play. But this is better for our community to play off of this. It's better for us. It's more profitable for us. So we'll always defer to those individual nodes when they're available. Right? Yeah. So that's how we handle the scaling and with backups, Hope that answers the question, Frank. All right. We're gonna cut it just under an hour. Perfect. Okay. 59 minutes. Thanks everybody. Again, let us know what you think of this kind of a format, and we'll see you on the other side.